Hello, Pastor Philip Hoppy, going through with you on these videos what's happening during Holy Week. Today, let's look at what's happening on Holy Week Tuesday. If you look over where the scriptures are printed out for you, you'll see there Mark 11 through 13 listed, Matthew 21 through 25, and Luke 20 through 21. And those are the places you want to go if you want to kind of read through everything that Jesus says and does and teaches on Holy Week of Tuesday. For the sake of being more brief, we're going to focus our efforts on what the Gospel of Mark reveals about this day. And in so doing, we're going to learn that Jesus is basically during Holy Week of Tuesday having confrontations with the religious leaders in Jerusalem. These religious leaders do not want Jesus to speak anymore. They want to silence him, and however they have to. Jesus is going to reveal to them that their positions, the temple itself, and the city of Jerusalem are about to pass away, and that new leaders, the apostles, are going to be set over the church as overseers. So let's look at what Jesus says. He begins with a word really to his disciples. Mark 11. And when evening came, they went out of the city. And they passed by, as they passed by in the morning, they saw the fig tree withered away to its roots. And Peter remembered and said to him, Rabbi, look, the fig tree that you cursed has withered. And Jesus answered them, have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. So here again, that same fig tree that we heard about yesterday, again, Jesus and the disciples walk by, and they notice now it's just completely withered. And the disciples, again, are marveling at this miracle, and Jesus tells them, if you have faith, this is nothing, right? So he's preparing them for all the things that they are going to do in his name and by his authority as they begin to watch over God's kingdom, over his vineyard. We continue on with verse 25. And whenever you stand praying, forgive, if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also who is in heaven may forgive your trespasses. And they came again to Jerusalem, and as he was walking in the temple, the chief priests and the scribes and the elders came to him, and they said to him, by what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority to do them? And Jesus said to them, I will ask you one question, answer me, and I will tell you by what authority I do these things. Was the baptism of John from heaven or from man? Answer me. And they discussed it with one another, saying, if we say from heaven, he will say, why then did you not believe him? But shall we say from man? For they were afraid of the people, for they all held that John was really a prophet. So they answered Jesus, we do not know. And Jesus said to them, neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things. And he began to speak to them in parables. A man planted a vineyard and put a fence around it and dug a pit for the winepress and built a tower and leased it to tenants and went into another country. When the season came, he sent a servant to the tenants to get from them some of the fruit of the vineyard. And they took him and beat him and sent him away empty-handed. Again, he sent to them another servant, and they struck him on the head and treated him shamefully. And he sent another, and him they killed. And so with many others, some they beat and some they killed. He still had one other, a beloved son. Finally he sent him to them, saying, they will respect my son. But those tenants said to one another, this is the heir, come let us kill him, and the inheritance will be ours. And they took him and killed him and threw him out of the vineyard. What will the owner of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the tenants and give the vineyard to others. Have you not read this scripture? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. And they were seeking to arrest him, but feared the people, for they perceived that he had told this parable against them. So they left him and went away. So this first parable is sort of the one that kind of reveals what's going on here. Jesus basically says that God has sent many prophets and now has sent his son, and yet those who were given charge over the vineyard, the kingdom, indeed are not responding as they should. Instead, they're destroying those whom God sends to them, even the Son of God, the Son of the Master. This is what they're planning to do, and while they do not repent, they do understand that these words are spoken against them. And that's basically what's happening all throughout Holy Week Tuesday, are these confrontations where Jesus is revealing the end of these people's authority and the end of the temple in Jerusalem. Let's continue reading. And they sent to him some of the Pharisees and some of the Herodians to trap him in his talk. And they came and said to him, Teacher, we know that you are true and you do not care about anyone's opinions, for you are not swayed by appearances, but truly teach the way of God. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Should we pay them or should we not? But, knowing their hypocrisy, he said to them, Why put me to the test? Bring me a denarius and let me look at it. And they brought one to him. And he said to them, Whose likeness and inscription is this? They said to him, Caesar's. Jesus said to them, Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And they marveled at him. So here we have another trick. It was a matter of great controversy, of course, whether the people of God, the Jews, should pay their taxes to Rome. And so they're trying to catch Jesus and get someone mad at him by what he says. And all of his answers are just amazing. He says here, right? Yes, if the taxes go to Caesar, you pay the taxes to Caesar because God has established Caesar as the authority. But don't forget that you also should render all the things that are God's to God. And so therefore they can't quite catch him in a word that's going to make anyone mad at him. Instead, they end up marveling at how wise his answers are. Now the Sadducees come. Verse 18. And the Sadducees came to him who say that there is no resurrection. And they asked him a question, saying, Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies and leaves a wife but leaves no child, the man must take the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. There were 7 brothers. The first took a wife, and when he died, he left no offspring. And the second took her and died, leaving no offspring. And the third likewise. And the 7 left no offspring. Last of all, the woman also died. In the resurrection, when they rise again, whose wife shall she be? For the 7 had her as wife. And Jesus said to them, Is this not the reason you are wrong, because you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God? For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. And as for the dead being raised, have you not read in the book of Moses, in the passage about the bush, how God spoke to him, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. You are quite wrong. So here the Sadducees think they're going to trick Jesus. They don't believe in the resurrection of the dead, and they come up with a reason why it'd be really confusing if there were a resurrection of the dead, and Jesus says, you don't even understand anything about all of this. You don't understand how it's going to go down, so your whole thing falls apart. And finally, he just says, recognize that indeed God is the God of the living, and he raises up his people. All right, let's continue reading here, verse 38. It says, And in his teaching he said, Beware of the scribes who like to go around in long robes and like greetings in the marketplaces, and to have the best seats in the synagogues and the place of honor at feasts, who devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers. They will receive the greater condemnation. And he sat down opposite the treasury and watched the people putting money into the offering box. Many rich people put in large sums. And a poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which make a penny. And he called his disciples and said to them, Truly I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all of these who are contributing to the offering box. For they all contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all she had to live on. Yeah, so here we have this wonderful story of the widow's mite. And this widow is put in contrast to the religious leaders again. The religious leaders are stealing from the widow, trying to take the very little that the widow has, and the widow instead is giving everything that she has to God. And so she is the one to be modeled after, not the religious leaders. We continue reading now in verse 1 of Mark 12. It says, And as he came out of the temple, one of his disciples said to him, Look, teacher, what wonderful stones and what wonderful buildings. And Jesus said to them, Do you not see these great buildings? There will not be one stone upon another that will not be thrown down. Let me say that again. Do you not see these great buildings? There will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down. So here, Jesus reveals something that is very important. He basically tells them, not only is your role in the kingdom going to end, but Jerusalem itself is going to be overthrown. And this did happen. This happened in 70 AD. The temple was destroyed, the city of Jerusalem was destroyed, and God through that made manifest that the new covenant had come and that the old ways had now passed away. And that Jesus, of course, was the center of everything now, very manifestly, and the apostles were the ones who were going to have authority in the church, and then the pastors that would come after them would share in that authority instead of the old scribes and Pharisees and Sadducees. Let's read just a little bit more here. We jump ahead to verse 28. It says, "From the fig tree learn its lesson. As soon as its branches become tender and it puts out its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also when you see these things taking place, you know that he is near at the very gates. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But concerning that day or that hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Be on guard, keep awake, for you do not know when the time will come. It is like a man going on a journey when he leaves home and puts his servants in charge, each with his work, and commands the doorkeeper to stay awake. Therefore stay awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening or at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or in the morning, lest he come suddenly and find you asleep. And what I say to you, I say to all, stay awake." So we get this final talk of the final things. He actually refers to two things. One, he says that this event of Jerusalem being destroyed is going to happen before that generation passes away. And then he switches to talk about that day being the final and last day. And he says regarding that day, nobody knows the hour, but we are to stay awake. And so when we look at this overall today, we see on Holy Tuesday that Jesus is confronting the religious leaders. He's telling them that the old is passing away and that the new is coming, and he's revealing to them exactly what that new is. That's what Jesus is doing on Holy Week Tuesday, and I hope this quick review has been helpful for you to keep thinking about Jesus during this week and being thankful for everything he has done in putting away what was of no value and bringing forth things of great eternal value. And God's peace be with you.